it's being 7 o'clock, I'll call this meeting to order. This is the Nottingham Planning Board, April 13th. And I'd like to just go around the room and, starting on my right, and just state your name. And
Teresa Bascom.
Robert Davies, alternate.
John Moran.
Edward Veal.
Dirk Grotenhuis.
Susan Mooney.
Gary Anderson.
And Paul Colby, Code Administrator.
So we do not have a select board member tonight.
And Teresa's actually a full member now,
You're right.
so you can
So,
move from the non-seated alternates section if you want.
That's okay, but he would be seated as well, right?
I don't think we can seat somebody else as,
No.
For the select board, no?
No.
so
Okay.
Buzz will remain as an alternate.
Okay.
We've got a quorum otherwise. So we've got a pretty good agenda tonight, so we'll get going. For those that haven't, please sign in the back, at least maybe when you leave, or if you haven't already. So we'll just go through, we will have a couple of public hearings, and we'll go through those first, and then we'll have some other business afterwards. We encourage people to stick around. We've got other things we can have input from. That would be great. But right now, we'll jump into the first item on the agenda, which is Eversource. They will be doing tree work on some of Nottingham's scenic roads. So in our ordinance for scenic roads, any tree cutting has to come before the planning board for approval of those tree cuttings. Eversource has provided a list of trees that would either be trimmed or cut. And as a representative from Eversource here, if you could just at least maybe state your name and would like to hear what the plan is.
Sure thing, no problem. Good evening, I'm Bob Berner, I'm the arborist for Eversource in the Nottingham area. Eversource seeks approval from the board to trim and remove trees and brush on the following roads located within the town: Case Road, Guile Road, Mitchell Road, Orr Farm, Priest, Stevens Hill, and Ledge Farm, which have all been declared scenic by the town. Our clearance standard remains the same. We will remove limbs and branches that are growing 8 feet to the side, 15 feet above, and 10 feet below. In addition, brush growing underneath our wire zone will be targeted for removal. We have also identified 19 risk trees that we would like to remove, and that's on the list that we submitted to you folks. Those trees, pending approval from the board, we will then contact the property owner and seek their permission to remove the trees. The balance of the work, the maintenance trimming, all property owners have been notified at least 45 days prior to activities starting. Our contractor for this project will be Lewis Tree Service, and we would like to start work within the next few weeks, please.
Okay. And so in addition to the 19 trees that you have on the list, that's in addition to the other trimming, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you've indicated that the residents, abutters to these trees and on the road where you're going to be doing the clearing have been notified?
Everyone except for the owners of these particular trees. We need your approval first, then we will go out and solicit their permission.
So these are the only trees on these roads? Or is
These-
there other trimming on the road?
There's trimming in addition to the removal of these trees. These trees are located within the boundaries of the stone walls under the jurisdiction of the planning board for a scenic road. There might be other trees that are located on private property along the scenic roads that will be targeted for removal, but they'll be outside of the scenic road boundary area.
And you've made contact or will make contact with the specific landowners of those trees?
Absolutely.
Is there any comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I believe Mr. Berner mentioned Priest Road, which is not in the letter, so I don't believe it was noticed as such. I don't know if Paul or Joanna could check what the notice was that went out. But on the letter that came to us, it was Case, Guile, Ledge Farm, Mitchell and Poor Farm, and Stevens Hill. And then, so for the trimming and other, for the brush removal, is it, is that generally things that are like under 4 inches in diameter or 4-inch caliper for the other trimming that's done?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yeah.
I was thinking somewhere else. I
Yeah, it's okay.
apologize. Go ahead.
For the other trimming that you had mentioned, that will be done, for like brush and such, is that usually things that are like under 4 inches in size, so that's considered?
Roughly, yeah, 6 inches or less is what we consider brush.
So typically, when you contact the property owners, do they have a option of whether you leave the stuff that's cut, the lumber there, or take it away for them, or just wondered how that works?
Our policies, we leave anything burnable behind, belongs to the property owner. If there's an issue, they can contact us either ahead of time or afterwards, and we can certainly come back and pick it up. When we permission, this job, we sent out mailers, and there is an option there for you to check off, return the mailer, and request a consultation. So that's normally when things like that are worked out. If somebody wants the wood removed or is adamant about the wood staying, we try to get that all squared away ahead of time.
And so for the Priest Road clearing, have you also mailed letters to those, since it wasn't on the original letter?
Yes, everyone on the circuit that we're trimming is much larger than just these few roads.
Yeah.
It's approximately, I think, 60 miles. So these are just a small, scenic roads are just a small portion of the circuit.
So you notify others than just the scenic roads
Absolutely,
residents?
yes.
All right, this is a public hearing, so I will open it up for public input. If you do have something that you want to have concerns of, please voice that. You can come up to the microphone. Sir, if you'd step away, not intimidate people. Then now's the time to do that. If there's some questions, please ask them. The representative's here at this point, so I'll ask anyone who has interest, please come up. For a second time, and a third time. Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and bring it to the board for any other questions or...
I noticed that Mitchell Road and Priest Road are on the list, but there's no tree here showing on that list. Is it just because they're on, you said there were other roads, though. Is it just that those are the scenic roads?
There are probably no risk trees along those particular roads. We will still do our routine maintenance trimming.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Thanks.
I know Mr. Ternenko had been at a prior meeting and discussed 2 of the ash trees on Ledge Farm. And I saw those trees. And
Case Road.
Case Road, yeah, I'm sorry, on Case. And they're on a slope and pretty close to the line, so, and they are in pretty poor shape.
Yeah. And they are ash trees, they're not,
They're ash, yeah.
they're not the white oak that he thought.
Yeah, no, they're ash.
Definitely, if they were gonna come down, they would come down on the lines, because they're on a upslope from the line.
At a previous public hearing, we did have a resident come and voice some concerns about one of the trees on Case Road. And that was an ash tree, or thought maybe it was a white oak. So I would just say that if you, are these trees flagged?
They should be ribbon, yes.
Okay.
Or we ribbon them when we identify them.
No. Whether they stay there or not, yeah. And what color are the ribbons?
They should be white.
And that doesn't discern whether that's a tree being removed completely or if there's some deadfall to be trimmed out of it, right?
We only identify trees that we're going to remove.
Okay, so the ones that are
Tagged are removals.
tagged are removals.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for clarification. When you take down trees, you ask the landowner if they would like the tree? Or do you make it possible for them to haul it away?
The wood associated with the removal belongs to the property owner. I don't wish to get involved with hauling wood or being responsible for it. So it's always up to the property owner. If they want us to haul it away, we will.
I see.
Some people hang on to it or give it to a neighbor.
I see. Thank you.
Yes.
What is the distinction in the two columns with the X's in it? There's nothing at the top.
It's within the zone, it's an RM.
It's an internal,
Okay.
it's the way we internally track the location of trees. Some are inside the zone, some are outside the zone.
And does that mean like under the wires or out of the wires?
How far away the tree is growing from the phase, how far away from the wire is the site.
We did receive a decipher code, Buzz, just for those columns. They provided an email.
So my only question goes back, since Priest Road wasn't part of the notice or the agenda.
They're just doing normal trimming.
Right, since it's under the
There's
size,
no
I think
identified trees
we're
on Priest
okay,
Road.
since it's under the size of it. But no trees are actually being removed, it's just, would be trimming.
Correct.
I think we're covered.
I'd entertain a motion unless there's other questions.
Chairman, I move that we approve the tree work to be done on the scenic roads as stated by Mr. Burner.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussions? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It's unanimous. All set, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next on the agenda is case P16003 LLA and SUB, application from Gwen Friend and Julia Friend Gray for a lot line revision between tax map 67, lots 1 and 2. Land being transferred from lot 1 to lot 2 is approximately 328,000 square feet, which will make lot 2 12.97 acres. And a backlot subdivision of tax map 67, lot 2, to subdivide a piece of land that is 7.63 acres. The current size of the lot 2 is 12.97. Properties are located at 150 and 160 Raymond Road, as identified on the tax map 67, lots 1 and 2.
Basically, we need to look at this as two cases. The lot line adjustment needs to come first, and if that's approved, then we can move on to the backlot subdivision.
Is there a representative from the applicant here to maybe walk us through the plans?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, my name is Christopher Berry, and I'm with Berry Surveying and Engineering. It's been a number of years since I presented a plan here this evening from this board. And we're here representing the Gray and Friend Gray family in their endeavor to provide a lot line revision in the proposed subdivision in an effort to create a backlot for Owen Friend Gray, a family member, to be able to develop a home site for he and his family. The Friend Grays own a parcel of land, tax map 67 lot 2, on the corner of 156 and French Road. And we asked that we perform land surveying work for them to tie into the survey that was accomplished in the early 90s for conservation easement, and provide a lot line revision first for the family. It currently is owned by two separate owners, tax map 2 and tax map 1. Lot 2 and lot 1 are separate lots of record. There's an existing home site on lot 2, and then lot 1 is vacant. The entire rear of this parcel is in a conservation easement and isn't necessarily the topic of discussion here this evening. There was, as part of that conservation easement, the area that we're showing and highlighting in our plan set was kept outside of that easement for this specific purpose. Again, in the early, I believe it was the early 90s, a cell phone tower was approved and erected on the project site, and we've shown its general location here also. We've done again, a boundary survey of fully lot 2 and a partial survey of lot 1. We've done a full topographic survey of the entire detailed area of the survey. We've provided a jurisdictional wetlands analysis, and provided that to you on the proposed plans. And in short, the proposed lot line revision is to shift the existing boundary line between lots 1 and 2 all the way out to relatively close proximity to the proposed, or the existing cell phone tower, to give approximately 13 acres to the existing frontage lot on 156 and French Road to the existing structure. The proposal, the second proposal would be the proposed subdivision, backlot subdivision, which they've received a variance for to allow them to do the backlot subdivision pursuant to the fact that when we do the lot line revision, we change the date of the plan, and therefore they were required to do a variance so that we could then do a lot line revision after that date to allow the frontage to come off of Route 156 along the existing stone wall boundary to the proposed development area. And later in those plan sets, we have provided a proposed home site, proposed 4,000 square foot leaching area, proposed driveway access, proposed driveway easement, so that they would share a curb cut onto Route 156, and no further permitting would be required. And again, have shown all of the setbacks and buffers for that proposed lot, as well as provided the 30,000 square foot building envelope that would be required within that area. So with that, your planning staff has provided us a couple of small notations. If the board feels appropriate, I guess we would ask that maybe these be conditions of approval after further discussion and public hearing. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Turn to Paul. You've reviewed the applications?
Yep, we found the application to be complete, and we recommend that you accept the application
So that would be the first,
for the lot line adjustment.
yep, first motion for the lot line adjustment.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the application, case P16-003-LLA and SUB.
The lot line,
This would be just for the lot line.
All right.
Second.
there's a motion and a second. Any discussion about that? Seeing none. Those in favor of accepting the application, say aye.
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 Those opposed? It's unanimous. And as order of how we need to approve these, so it would go into an approval process, which we would open a public hearing. So if there are any residents, abutters, or citizens in general that would like to speak to, for or against this application, I just invite you to come up, state your name, and ask questions or have comments. Seeing none? Second time, anyone who wants to come up? Third time? I would appreciate that. So I will close the public hearing on this application for the acceptance, or for the approval, sorry. So now we would go in and accept the subdivision.
No, you've accepted the application, we need to accept the project now. And
All right.
there's a couple comments that, you guys should have my notes. I mean, as Chris just said, there's two minor things. His wetland scientist, we just need his stamp on the final plans, as well as our board requires that the signature block have enough space for the complete board to sign. And that's my comments on the lot line adjustment.
Okay.
So my recommendation is that, unless you guys see something else in the lot line adjustment, that we approve it conditionally based on, well, them two things, and then the overall of the monumentation, which I've got at the bottom for both.
Yeah,
He's only gonna do the monumentation once for both the lot line and the sub, so I just made that as a general.
I just have two very minor things, it's actually the same. On sheets 2 and 3, the area to be transferred from tax area, it's just a typo. It says, map 76, lot 2. Instead of map 67. Yeah, that sheet and then the next sheet, same thing.
Comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I just want the board to know that the Conservation Commission corresponded with members of the Friend family and the Friend Gray family because we were concerned with any encumbrances on the conservation easement property. And we were satisfied to know that none of the conservation easement property is being transferred over in this lot line adjustment. However, the Conservation Commission requests of the owners that they reblaze the conservation easement boundary after it's completed.
We don't have to show that. As a result.
Yeah. The town of Nottingham is the primary easement holder for that property.
The applicant have any issues with that?
I have another question too. How come the farmhouse isn't shown on this property? Ian Friend's farm.
They requested a waiver to not show that whole piece with the topo and everything on it.
Okay,
Yeah, because it's really not part of this,
correct.
way on the far, as we all know, it's on the far side, the north side of that property.
Okay.
So as a part of this application, we have some waivers then, and we have to approve those waivers.
Yes. Yeah. Did you put them in their package, the waiver?
So I think we should take the waivers before we'll take those one at a time before we,
I'm sorry, it may not be for this one.
It would be on the folder, Mr. Chairman.
this folder?
Yeah, Friend Gray from the top.
Somewhere in there.
I turned to planning staff to their judgment.
Our recommendation is you approve the waiver.
Just for the board's application,
Yes.
it's for full requirements and existing features on
On the
We do
parcel
a
there,
letter
right?
requesting it. So that probably covers this in here too.
Okay. And that was it, just the property, entire boundary? Okay. Okay. So I'd entertain a motion on the waiver for entire topo for this applicant.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the waiver to waive the full topo and showing of the house that is on lot 6, map 67, lot 1.
It's a motion?
Second.
And a second? Those in favor? Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed? Waivers granted? That was the only waiver, right?
Yep.
Okay. Now we can entertain the lot line adjustment approval. If there's other questions regarding the lot line adjustment.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
move that we approve the lot line adjustment for case P16-003 with the stipulation that the approval block needs to be enlarged so that all planning board members may sign it, and that the wetland professional stamp be included on that application.
Can we also add to that, the blazing of the conservation line, which I agree to? And then, was it Ed, you pointed out, there's a couple of tax, just
Oh,
a
the
tax map
topo,
number, they just gotta flip the
67
typo,
and
right, which
76 be
he's already
corrected.
written down, so.
Correct.
So we have those 4 conditions.
Yes.
So there's a motion on the floor?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous? Now we would entertain the application for the backlot subdivision.
Staff recommends the application is, we found the application to be complete. We recommend you accept the application.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the application for case P16-003 SUB for the subdivision.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous. Are there any waivers on the subdivision?
Yes, sir, the waiver request is identical to the prior application for the same justifications provided.
Thank you. So I'll entertain a motion on the waiver to not have the entire lot topo mapped.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the waiver for lot 1 to not have it fully topoed and show the house.
Motion and
I'll second that.
a second. Any discussion?
There's actually a second waiver requested in the letter about the, they're requesting a waiver for all utilities to be installed underground.
Oh,
So I don't know if
That's right,
it's-
yeah.
to allow overhead utilities.
so, in a
What-
normal,
So
Let me just hold, since it's a motion and a second, let me just
we can take that.
get a waiver vote on the first waiver. So there's a motion and a second. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Unanimous?
the utility request, most towns and this town alike requires that underground utilities be installed for home sites and new subdivisions. In this case, French Road is a Class 6 road. It's not traveled by public by means of transportation from one point to another. You do have people that travel the area for hunting and recreation. But there are utility lines, overhead utility lines in that specific area, which will most likely be where the power for the proposed lot is taken. Because the area of French Road itself within this section has large amounts of ledge, we wanted to go overhead from the overhead, the existing overhead utilities to the project site. There would be a point on site that we would drop down and go under, but again, we would try and avoid ledge situations with underground utilities, so we're not disturbing the earth too drastically. So that's the reason for the
Yeah, and the power line runs up French Road past this property to where the cell tower site is. So,
Entertain a motion on the waiver.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve a waiver for overhead utilities for the same case that we're,
Motion, is there a second?
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? This is the most voting we've done in 4 months.
In one meeting, yes.
and we're not done.
That's excellent. I like this. Okay, so now we would, we have the waivers passed us. Now we would open the public hearing for the actual subdivision, which creates this backlot. Any of those citizens, public, speaking for or against? Going once, twice, 3 times? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for any questions on the subdivision.
Comments? My notes, you'll see, the first 2 things in my notes are the same as we discussed previously in the lot line adjustment. The third note is that, we have on backlot subdivisions, we have them add a note that they can be further subdivision. That's right out of our zoning ordinance. And then the other note that needs to be added is that this lot is subject to the town impact fee that we'll require on subdivisions. And then again, the bounds, documentation as we move forward. And once again, unless there's other things the board members come up with, we recommend, based on just that short list, approval conditionally.
Buzz, you have a comment?
Yeah, pardon my ignorance, I just want some clarification on where the new lot lines are.
The proposed lot line would start approximately 5 feet off the existing driveway. Come up at an angle along the driveway, kick back, and the proposed a neck, the back lot, would run on a profile on a cross-section of the driveway to know that it would fit within that neck. And at this point, approximately 815 feet off from 156, it would kick back to the original.
Okay.
That'd be, I'll grab it.
So that's, that whole strip from the edge of the paved road is gonna be widened so that there's room for a driveway in there?
That's right.
And that's gonna be part of the back lot?
That's right.
Okay. That's what I thought it was, I just couldn't quite, yeah.
So this would be the building lot. Provided a driveway easement at the entrance so that they could share the neck of the access point, to reduce access on the highways, and then propose the driveway up to
So it will be the same location as the existing driveway?
Yes.
I know it was mentioned that variance was granted, and we just don't have any of that information, so I'm just curious about when that was.
April 7th of 2015, on the recommendation of this board, they sought relief for the age of the lot, because we created a new lot, so they could do the backlot subdivision. And that's, there's a note on that on the plans.
There's no number.
Oh, okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Do we normally, I think we normally ask them to show where they propose the driveway to go, right? Or it's just.
We just show the curb cuts, we don't show the
curb
whole
cuts, fine.
driveway, yeah, which they have, so.
I mean, I understand where it's gonna go.
Yeah.
And that driveway can be installed with no wetlands impacts,
That's correct.
fairly
Yeah.
moderate slope driveway.
Yeah, Owen, I don't know if the board is aware, Owen is also a civil engineer. He had the same question first, and we provided Owen with a profile and a rough section and some grading through here to know that it could be built in an appropriate manner.
It does look like the best place for it, looking at the topography on the other side of the lot.
Yeah.
This is the
We're able to keep the
More subtle.
profile basically a foot above the existing grade, and not blasting or cutting or anything like that.
We, the three of us, I think, did you make copies for everybody of Charlene's letter? Okay, the chairman, vice chairman, and myself received a letter from Charlene with some input in her comments, but she had some questions about the driveway, which we just discussed. Her other ones were, she couldn't see the building envelope, the well, or the septic, and they're all there. I can see on the 4,000 square foot area, the well, on page 5 or 6 is the well field. And the buildable area is unique, it's a lot larger than 30,000 square feet. So,
Yeah, you show, I asked Joseph to put it on there.
yeah,
Sure it's-
and then her
Well,
question,
it's well larger than
Yeah.
30,000 acres.
Yeah.
Lot setback.
and she had confusion of the setback of the cell tower, so if you look at page 3 of 6, the cell tower itself is 76.5 feet from the lot line. Then you'll see a smaller rectangle, that's a chain link fence. And the larger rectangle, correct me if I'm wrong, Owen, that's the leased area
Yes.
of that the SBA has leased from the trust. Right. So that, the larger rectangle box is just a drawing on a plot plan to show the leased area.
Any questions, comments from the board? Going once. Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion on this. There are some conditions too.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the case P16-003 SUB with 5 contingencies. Approval block needs to be enlarged. The wetland professional stamp needs to be placed on the plans. A note needs to be added that this lot cannot be further subdivided as per our zoning ordinances. And a note needs to be added that the lot is subject to town impact fee, and we need documentation when all boundary monuments are set.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion on that motion? Seeing none?
Just
Sorry.
one question, does the reblazing apply to that?
No.
I think it was covered with the lot line adjustment. Once that's done, we're fine. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, put it to a vote. Those in favor of the approval of this subdivision, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, seeing none, it's unanimous. Thank you. And if the owners are here, we appreciate the patience for the town of Nottingham boards for the approval. We know that there was concerns and questions about going to multiple boards to clear up some of the confusion that was from previous surveys. So I think this is a very clean way of doing it. So I appreciate the applicant and the owner for that. Yep. The next case we have is case P16-004 SUB. It's an application from J&L Terra Holdings Incorporated for a conventional 5-lot subdivision on 20.331 acres on Smoke Street. Property is identified as tax map 10, lot 4, sublot 1. Is there someone here from the applicant to present or discuss?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Peter Landry, Landry Surveying.
Thank you, Mr. Landry. Can you maybe just step through the application?
Certainly give you a quick rundown. For those who aren't familiar with this location on Smoke Street, it's between the Little River Road subdivision and the Town Gravel Pit Road, okay, on the east side of Smoke Street. Currently, there's a little over 20 acres and about 1,400 feet of frontage, existing road frontage. We've completed the boundary survey, topographic survey, wetland delineation, and test pitting for a 5-lot subdivision. You'll notice on the 2 plan sets that each lot has the 200-plus foot of frontage, as well as the 2-acre minimum and the 30,000 contiguous fit for building upland area. Again, test pitting has been done for all the lots. There are 2 test pits shown in the 4K area as required. And as you'll see from the test pit results, we had very deep water tables, 40 inches up to 96 plus inches. So well-drained, sandy material out there. Somewhat because of the close proximity to Little River and its sensitive environment, we had a Gove Environmental Services out of Exeter do a environmental impact assessment, which I don't know if the board has had a chance to see that. I won't speak too much about that, maybe none at all, but I will just read the conclusion of his report. The proposed 5-lot subdivision involves no direct wetland impact. locates the building areas on previously disturbed land or other suitable upland, involves no road building. Valuable resources associated with the Little River corridor and its wetlands will be untouched by the proposed residential development with substantial intact buffers. The project will have no negligible effects on the natural resource of this site. And as you'll see in detail, if you look through that study, they looked at the soils, geology, topography, vegetation of upland, wetland, fish and wildlife, vernal pools studies which are identified on the plan, and a wetland value function. So that we made as part of the application because of the close proximity to Little River. That's all I have to say.
Okay, we have to accept the application at this point.
Yeah, we found the application to be complete. We recommend acceptance of the application.
Staff finds it complete. Can I entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the application for case P16-004-SUB as complete.
There's a motion
Second?
and a second. Those in favor, any discussion? Those,
Who seconded it?
Gary.
Gary.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
We'll take a vote. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Those unanimous? Now that it's accepted, we would open a public hearing and ask that anybody in the public that has comments, concerns, feel free to come on up, speak into the microphone, and just let us know where you're or let us know your name. Come on up.
So I'm Carolyn Kelleher. We're the Kellehers. Our land is right, we abut. So I don't really understand their map very well. So that's what I'm here for. I need clarification of our boundaries here. So there's a proposed boundary. It looks like it comes, it's a dotted line.
Do you know what your lot number is?
Oh, I'm so sorry. We are
10-18. It's on
Yeah.
the bottom left-hand corner.
10 Kelleher on 21 Little River Road.
Yes. Okay.
It's the dotted line. It looks like it actually comes over the land line, and I'm not really sure what that is.
Yeah,
Would you like me to answer that?
if you would, please.
The dotted line, it's down in the lower left-hand corner. It's labeled approximate location of
Right.
special flood hazard area.
Oh, okay. What does that mean?
That's, that basically, they're FEMA flood maps that designate areas in town that are in a flood zone.
Oh,
Yeah,
that
so
makes
that's all that
perfect
is.
sense.
Yeah.
So the only other question I have is, all of this wetland that's down here, how do you see that, like, used? Like, it looks like it'll be part of someone's property, like, how close can a building come to us, and how much access would they have? Because it's coming up behind us, it's out in our back pasture. We just want to know what would be placed out there, how, like, are they hunting there, so that,
So
could
the-
somebody an animal gets shot on my land or something, you know what I mean? We need to know how that back lot
yeah,
is gonna be used.
Yeah, and the landowner that purchases the property, can use it as laws exist.
Okay, so, but how close can a
And
building
There
be?
is a specific wetland setbacks
Okay.
that has to be adhered to. The applicant has shown areas where they're proposing a house lot. It's a buildable
Okay.
area.
All right, that makes sense. All
So
right.
those buildable areas are shown on the map.
Okay.
And that, they have to build the house within that area.
Okay.
In this buildable area for the lot that abuts yours,
Yeah.
it's 320 feet from the edge of the buildable area to your property line.
Okay.
And the
all right.
houses would probably not be right on the edge of the buildable area.
Okay, that's fine, because we have grandkids and stuff that play back there, and we just don't want anyone shooting, like, through the woods if they don't know that there's a pasture right on the other side of the tree, or there's a place where kids are playing, and that's not a used area right now, it's just wetlands down
But
there.
our town ordinance as well as state law, they can't build in the wetland area at all.
Okay, so we're all, okay, we're good, welcome to the neighborhood.
I would suggest.
Hard to hear.
Yeah,
But
think we've seen you climbing around.
Thank you
it.
anyway.
Yeah, I would suggest cupcakes to the new owner when they do move in. That works too.
We appreciate it. Thank you so
no problem.
much. All
Any
right.
other public or comment questions? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing, and we'll bring it back to the board for discussion. Paul,
Yeah, you guys, I passed around some notes. There's one that actually Ed picked up when him and I were looking at it tonight. The first one is, some of the abutters, the tax map was incorrectly identified, and Pete and I have already gone over it, and we'll give them the list. It's very confusing with our new software. It looks like it's all on map 10 when it actually isn't. It doesn't delineate on our new, that's a software glitch. So, state subdivision approval is still pending on lots, proposed lots 1A through 1D. Lot 4-1 would be exempt because it's of the acreage. The revision block needs to be added in below where Pete's put in specific town notes, just because this is the first copy is the plan to be. I've got Teresa, do you have an extra copy?
I do.
Pete? Yeah. Because this is the recorded sheet, Pete, so just, we like
Yeah,
to see the recorded
yeah,
sheet.
yeah,
Yep.
it's on the other one.
And then there was some questions by a few people about the lot proposed for one, the second area that's shown with setbacks. And then the other one that Ed found, and again, the documentation of monument setting. But on lots, proposed lots 1A through 1D, there's a side setback shown of 20 feet where 50 feet's required.
Well, yeah, that's right. The 20-foot, that's showing the contiguous upland, so we should add the additional 50. We have that obviously down in the zoning summary.
Right,
So 50 foot all around, but
We like
we
to
should
show
add
on
that
the
into the
plans.
building envelope.
right.
Yeah, but that's, this is depicting the fit for building, which can go up to 20 feet, so we'll add the other lines.
so with the 50-foot buffer added, does the buildable area still meet the
Well,
requirements?
the buildable area would stay unchanged, the 50 foot just as for the building setback. The 30K area can go within 20 feet of a side setback. Which is shown, so should show that other line for the building setback.
Anything else, Paul?
That's the, the big thing with the abutters thing, and like I said, we even made the mistake when we checked the butters in the office, until we printed out the actual list. If you go on with the computers.
There was one more that we did talk about, that I will add. It was a little confusing, but the town lot downtown in Nottingham also had a second abutter, or its co-owner, which it was a little confusing, but it was a Tasker. They were legally notified, but I wasn't sure how they fit in, so I didn't put them on the plan.
Yeah, and that was, I included that in the text, the first one, but yeah, if you look at the bottom, it's pretty much the whole bottom boundary on the other side of the river. We jointly own that property, the town, with the Tasker family from Northwood.
And Paul, I believe the statement that they can do a 20-foot setback is incorrect. To show that in the buildable area, it specifically says in our lot envelope, the last line of it, the lot envelope shall not include either areas unfit for building and their appropriate setbacks or building setbacks.
Correct,
So the building setback is 50 feet.
for a house,
Right.
right. So he still has to show he can get a 50-foot setback in that buildable area. So, I mean,
Without
right, like we
creating.
talked about earlier, proposed lot 41D is gonna be tight to show a 50-foot setback.
Right, it almost seems like with the current configuration, 41D maybe it might be better to go with a 4-lot subdivision and change some of the shapes of the lots to make them more rectangular, and because it seems like, I don't remember ever approving the buildable area with a 20-foot setback.
Right, it's always been the
Calculated,
50-foot.
50-foot.
The setback, yeah.
Because if you go with a 50-foot setback, then you create an hourglass shape that has an impingement. Do you know what the distance, Mr. Landry, is of on lot 41D? The section where it gets the narrowest, do you know what the distance is between the two lines?
Between the property lines?
No, what's shown is the buildable area now.
Talking about the
Well,
setback
it's,
lot.
this is the septic line, so let's, well, right now, between the two setback lines is 60 feet. But that's, again, these building setbacks, and again, Paul, you can correct me, the way we've done this for the last year or so was, you'll allow a septic system within 20 feet, which, that is a building setback. Now, now you're saying, I can't use that extra 30 feet, I gotta stop at 50, but that's just for the building. And it doesn't say you have to have 30,000 for the building, it says 30,000 fit for building, which includes the septic. So we've always gone to within 20 feet of the property line to show the 30K. But,
If you look in our zoning ordinance, mine's page 2.
But there can't be, the building can't be within that 50-foot setback.
the building cannot be, right, but the septic can in
Because-
garages.
Right, it says right there, under Article 2C, smaller letter C, 1C, the 30,000 square foot or a 200 by 200, that would include the house septic to meet all the setback existing setback for outbuildings, septics, and everything are 20 feet. The main house, if you go down to number 2, that's where it explains the main house still needs to be 50 feet from all lot lines, because this is not a non-conforming lot. So, in my opinion, yes, he still needs to show a 50-foot setback line in the lots, so we can ensure that the 50-foot setback line is all in the buildable area.
Yeah, we'll add that. Certainly, they're gonna come in from the 20-foot setback that's shown.
Well,
And
right now, the building would be, there's two lots that the building would be within that 50-foot, so,
What do you, I don't,
in lot, 41D, the potential dwelling area, that's shown almost to that 20-foot setback line.
that's just the fit for building area shown. What we need to clarify is to show the 50-foot setback off the sideline for the building.
But it says proposed dwelling.
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay, yeah. Right, yeah, well, yes.
So-
Those have to be moved around,
So,
right?
yeah, you.
And that one on the end does, yes.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
41A and 41D.
This maybe this is an opportunity to even scooch that line over between those two end lots there, and give that one with the triangle buildable area, that 50-foot buildable area, that one on the end, give them a little bit more room. So if we took that 151-foot line, maybe able to just like slide that over, which gives that end lot a little bit more breathing room. You have the same configuration, but we could make a slight improvement. We've got an extra 4,000 square foot of fit for building on that lot, so, yeah.
And there would be adequate frontage.
Yeah, we'd leave the frontage, just leave the frontage points where they are and just pivot that line, that 151 line that you see on there, yeah.
And 4A is the same thing. It's the house,
Yeah.
the house lot's gonna be shown different.
Yeah, those can all be slid over.
I'm still concerned, I mean, it specifically says it can't, the 30,000 square foot area can't contain the areas which would be building setbacks. I mean, we're saying proposed dwelling there, but there's no guarantee that's where it's gonna go. We get that all the time, like, they can say here, but,
But if he puts it back there, then I'm gonna deny the permit, because he has to come in with a site plan to set the building.
yeah.
Right.
Yes, I don't, since we especially updated the regulations, I don't remember approving one with a 20-foot, with only a 20-foot side setback shown to calculate the buildable area.
Well,
And you definitely get into, you know, like you said, there's only like about 60 feet between those lines now. So if you change those at all, that area is gonna get impinged quite a bit. So it's only gonna be 30 feet in between those lines.
We're gonna go the other way, Ed. You're gonna improve that end lot. You're gonna slide the lot line south between 1C and 1D.
I would recommend to the board that we continue this to allow them to draw new plans showing what we're asking, and then give them a chance to correct the few minor things that we talked about. And then we can review them again, and we'll continue it to a date and time certain, and then we'll give us a chance for them to redraw the lots or whatever they're gonna do to make this work.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to piggyback on that too, if I may. With so much frontage on Little River and extensive wetlands, this is a prime example of something that should come before the Conservation Commission
Well,
with their
it has to
review.
be sent to you because it's a major subdivision. That's part of in our new regs, so,
And
yeah.
can I ask Mr. Landry for a copy of that electronically, the wetlands report that you received on that?
The report from Gove.
We prepare it, but we can try to get one from Gove.
Okay. Just send it along so we can review it.
And you'll notice normally on a major subdivision, we get fire department input, but if you notice, they're proposing to put automatic sprinklers in all the dwellings, so that takes care of the fire protection issue.
Okay.
There was another issue brought up earlier on noticing abutters.
Yeah.
It wasn't done properly, so.
No, it was done properly. All the abutters were done properly. It was just their tax map numbers were it was a typo on their
Okay,
tax
so
map.
all abutters
Yes,
have been
yeah,
noticed.
yeah, because we printed out the abutters list and we went with what they submitted and what Joanna made sure that every abutter got a legal notice.
And the only other thing I had, Mr. Landry, was, for very poorly drained soils, it's a 75-foot, offset, or setback. So it doesn't affect any of the proposed, lots. It's only that other area that was shown, that might not be 75 feet.
I don't know what other area.
I'm sorry, on lot 4-1, the area, the southern area that was shown, there's a potential, you know, it was outlined with the setbacks to the top left of the plan.
Where it's labeled very poorly drained, saying, I guess I'm not following that
Yeah.
right now, sorry. but-
Right, to the.
This one right-
Auxiliary buildable area, Pete? if you wanna
Auxiliary,
call it
sorry,
that.
that's what you're
Yeah,
talking
And then there's this one it's a pocket within poorly drained?
yeah.
So that might,
Oh, I see, whether that overlaps that one, okay. Double check that. That might pinch that right off.
yeah, so then you would just get kind of more of a
I got it, yeah.
Oklahoma shape.
Mr. Chairman, I have another question, and this I'm going to probably put to you, Paul. I just now learned through listening to you that on the other side of the river, this is town-owned property that was the Tasker property. Is that correct? Has an NRCS easement?
This is the gravel pit out back, town gravel pit.
So, be that as it may, it's town-owned property. How does the town get noticed if they have any special interest in a subdivision?
The board of
Like every
selectmen, the board of selectmen are notified, because they're the overseers of the town.
I see.
So, yeah, and usually they refer that back to the selectmen's rep position to pass on to the full board.
I see. Thank you.
Yes.
Do we have any comments from the select board representative?
On my letter. She had brought up about the floodplain being in the driveway areas, and I think she's reading the plan wrong. The flood zone is well away from Smoke Street, so it wouldn't affect any driveways at all. Same thing with, she's lot 4-1 and 4-1A, it goes through the buildable area. Well, I mean, yeah, if you look at lot proposed 4-1, it does have that little triangle that's in flood zone A, but we're talking about a 51,000 square foot buildable area, so. Let's just Special occurrence, yeah, but she wanted a note added that any building had to meet the flood hazard areas, and it doesn't, because the buildable areas, none of them are in the flood zone. And then she recommended a note stating no further construction or land clearing be done outside of the building envelopes due to the flood, plain area. So I think part of that is what conservation's gonna look, we would ask
Definitely,
conservation to
yeah.
look at for us too.
You know, particularly where there's some steep slopes in here too, that water would just pour down the slopes into the watershed.
Any other comments or concerns? I think we've got a little bit of a list going. We've got a recommendation from town staff to continue this. Is there,
I move to continue this case to,
Joanna, you got your calendar book? We need a date and time.
That's in the front. We have it,
Oh, yeah, I got it.
well, let me ask the applicant, do you think you would be able to make these changes within 2 weeks? We have another meeting in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we can make those, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're looking at
April 27th.
April 27th?
so continued, case to April 27th, 7 p.m.
The motion,
I'll second.
and second. Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Thank you.
Continue to the next meeting.
The first opportunity for the Conservation Commission would be May 9th. If-
Is it a requirement to?
No, it's, the board recommends that it go to the
Yeah, in our
Conservation Commission.
subdivision regulations, in our department review, we listed them as, technically they're a commission,
Yeah.
but as a department, that during the application part, any major subdivision, the way we have it written, or if there's, on a minor subdivision, if there's unique features,
Yeah.
we would recommend their review.
Yeah. But it's case by case.
Yeah, and I have it marked down, I'll send this one, because of the number of wetlands.
Yeah.
Will those 2 weeks allow the Conservation Commission enough time to, these members to review that?
I hope so.
Well, right now, that's what we just passed,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it goes from us to them anyway, right?
I'm sorry?
It would go from us to them.
Yes.
Is the next meeting the one with the Conservation Commission is joint, or is that in May?
It's in May.
That's
in
May,
May.
yeah,
May
May,
23rd?
the end of May.
Talk to Joanna, we'll get you a full set.
Thank you.
Okay, the next public hearing and case is case P16005 SUV, an application from Chuck Minisali of PTC Realty Limited to review and approve a yield plan for open space 24-lot subdivision on 87.16 acres on Flutter Street in Nottingham. Well, yes. The property is tax map 44, lot 12.
Mr. Chairperson, I have to recuse myself because I'm in a butter.
Okay, you are recused. Yeah. So at this point, we would seat Robert Davies as a full member and voting member on this case.
Is this location good for the board?
Yeah, that's fine. So we will first review the application and turn to Paul to see if there's any concerns with the application.
Nope, after review, we find the application to be complete and recommend acceptance of the application.
There a motion for acceptance?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the application for case P16-005-SUB as complete.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion of that? Seeing none, those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Unanimous. So we will entertain the subdivision application itself. If someone's here from the applicant, please state your name and you provide us a little bit of insight on this application.
Certainly, thank you. Joe Coronati, Jones and Beach Engineers. With me is Tara, what's your last name? Saxton from PTC Realty Limited LLC. She's the owner, one of the owners of the property. This property is located on Flutter Street. It's a wooded parcel. It's 87 acres. It's been in their family for a long time, and we're here tonight to discuss a subdivision on the property. And what we have in front of you is two plans. We have a yield plan and we have a cluster plan. We're looking to do the open space subdivision is our goal, but we have to provide a yield plan to this board in order to come up with a number of lots that this property would allow. So we've laid out the yield plan with a single point of access from Flutter Street. It comes in and has two cul-de-sacs. The property yields 21 lots, and being 87 acres, that's basically a 4 acre per lot ratio or average. We do have a table on the plan, a little kind of a spreadsheet type table that has each lot, the frontage, the lot size, the amount of uplands, and the amount of area within the setbacks to meet the 30,000 square foot building envelope that the town requires. And I kind of want to switch the plan here to show you I'm not sure if the abutters have had a chance to look at any of this. We have this being Flutter Street here. This is the road going in, one cul-de-sac off to the north and one to the west. There are some wetlands on the property, significant wetland out back. There's small wooded wetlands throughout the property in the middle, a couple of isolated pockets. We've been able to avoid all the wetland impacts except for one. There's one wetland that crosses the property from left to right. We cannot avoid this wetland here. So in either scenario, the cluster or the yield plan, we will have one wetland impact. The plan that we would like is a much less intense plan on the property. This consists of 24 lots. Your ordinance allows a 15% bonus for open space development. And what we'd be looking to do here is similar style layout, but shortening of the roads and producing open space all around the lot. We have 24 lots in the open space design. And with this, which is still a little rough because we haven't done the full drainage design or road design as of yet. We have over 60 acres of open space. So on 87 acres, we'd be able to provide approximately 60 acres of open space. We'd be able to protect the wetlands in the rear of the property. We have 100-foot buffers around all of around the whole parcel. And most of the lots are in the middle of the parcel, and it really protects a large chunk of contiguous upland and contiguous open space around the lots. The open space layout would require a road length waiver for the one cul-de-sac headed to the northwest. That cul-de-sac is 2,400 feet. I believe your regs require or limit it at 2,000. So we would be looking to obtain a road length waiver for that. in the future when we come back with a design plan. But we'd like to kind of get to, I guess, the board's opinion on the yield plan tonight, and B, the waiver on the road length.
Mr. Chairman, if I could go over some issues we had with the yield plan?
I'd like to hear from the public first,
Okay. All right, that's fine.
unless some of these might get answered, then.
Well, that's fine, yeah, go ahead with that, and then we'll proceed.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to the public hearing's open, so I'd like to make sure that adequate public has enough time to voice concerns. So if you do have some questions and some current concerns, the hearing will remain open for a little while, so I won't close the public hearing until the applicants explained everything. So if you do have some questions at this point, feel free to ask them. The public hearing will stay open. Anyone want to come up and ask a question at this point? Okay. If you mind giving them some space there so they could, the public could speak into the microphone and state your name.
Thank you. My name is Bill Hall, and I'm on Butter on Flutter Street. And I'm not really sure the differences between the open space and the yield plan, so it'd be nice if we got some clarification on that tonight. But I'm mostly concerned about the road that is crossing the wetland, and also was curious to know what the setback would be for the road from the property lines.
Setback of the road?
Of the road from the property lines, yes.
Property lines, okay. And we'll ask the applicant these specific things and see if there are,
Okay,
some information there.
thank you.
Anybody else want to have some questions for the applicant at this point?
I'm Susan Mooney, speaking as a resident and a butter. When I looked at this plan, it didn't seem to be, the first page, didn't seem to be a
The yield plan.
Yeah, the
Yield
yield
plan?
plan. Didn't seem to be a conventional design. And for conventional design subdivisions, there has been an in-road and an out-road with a loop design. And then you design the lots according to that loop road. Cul-de-sacs are generally allowed for an open space subdivision. So you would get a conventional design, and then you would find out how many houses that would support, and then you'd use that number for the open space. This seems to be a hybrid between open space with cul-de-sacs and only one road going in, rather than a conventional for the yield plan. My second point is the yield plan map shows the road going in along property lines. The Bloom and Lamoni, and then also the Hall property, to allow for lot number 1.
Yeah.
And those are my 2 points.
Okay, great. Any other,
I can answer some of them.
yeah, sure.
Well, the first question that Susan proposed, the cul-de-sac, in our new subdivision regulations, it states right here, and I'm reading from it, a cul-de-sac may serve no more than 20 residential units in a conventional subdivision, or 40 units in open space development. In no event shall dead-end streets exceeding 2,000 feet be approved unless alternative provisions approved by the Nottingham Fire Department and Planning Board, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, under our old way we used to look at, before we approved the new subdivision regulations, Susan wouldn't have been correct. We only looked at cul-de-sacs. Under our new subdivision regulations, you can do up to 20 lots on a traditional 2-acre subdivision. that's okay. Road setbacks from property lines, we don't have anything in our ordinance against that. They can be right up to the property line, as long as they're not encroaching with drainage and et cetera on the abutters. And then the other was the wetland question you had?
Yes.
I will let the applicant speak on that, because they're the ones that have to design all that for our approval.
So I'd ask the applicant to come back up, maybe answer some of those questions if you could. And then the board will have some questions as well.
The wetland,
Sir, in the back?
Yeah, I didn't ask if there was anyone else to speak. I have other issues to speak on this issue.
Okay, sure, sorry, applicant. Thank you for speaking up.
Thank you. My name is Randy McCall. I live at number 7 Flutter Street, Nottingham, New Hampshire. My tax map is 37, lot 1, is 51 point,
Yes.
what my issue were, I did have some questions on the impact with additional wells going in. There's no actual proof on anything yet, but they're looking into stuff with radons and stuff, with impacts on additional wells in certain areas. There's no actual proof on it yet, but I did some questions on that. And the wetland impact, I also had questions on. I'm very concerned with that for wildlife and, you know, things of that nature. The plans that I did see, I had questions on it also with the road and the lot lines. I had a question on that. I'm not really sure if that was answered totally. And, you know, just, there's a lot of wetlands. And I was really concerned with that. And I thought the same thing on the plan when I saw it. Something just, I don't know, it just didn't look right. And I didn't know if conservation, you know, had been out there and looked at it.
Was Conservation Commission provided
No,
the
until
application?
the application gets accepted, we don't ask other town departments to weigh in. During this whole review process, they will weigh in and give their opinion.
Because that's extremely important for wildlife in the area, because it's not like it's a runoff, and when snow melts, it's a puddle. It's quite a bit, and I think it really should be looked into. And I think that was,
Okay, great,
thank you.
thank you. Anyone else from the public speak? Sure.
Peter Smith, I'm not in a butter, but I live on Flutter Street. And I'm just wondering, at what point will a plan deal with the access off of Flutter Street in terms of any sort of widening, deceleration, any modifications which will allow for the increased traffic off a fairly narrow road, which actually is it's kind of at a turn, and a sign that says dangerous intersection right by it. So I'm just wondering at what point is that dealt with in this process, because it kind of is at a tricky point in that road, and I'm hoping that's going to be addressed.
Sure, yeah, this is really an initial step in this process, is to review their yield plan, which would determine if they are interested in going into a cluster subdivision, which means some smaller lots and allowable open space. This process determines the amount of lots that would be capable of being sustained in the cluster subdivision. So that's what this review process is right now. The next review process, there will be another public hearing and more detailed drawings and designs that the applicant will prepare, and we'll have a very detailed review of those once they're submitted. We don't have that information yet, so we will have ample time again in another public hearing once we've seen some more details. Paul, anything else that you can add to that?
On the explanation, no, you covered it, yeah. What the gentleman was asking just now about the road,
I did have another question on that.
Flutter Street and stuff, as we review the thing, part of our regulations, we can require what we call off-site improvements. So, but until we get the full package of all their designs, how many number of lots and everything, then we review it at that point. So, is that was, I know you had that was your question, right? Okay,
That was my question also.
yeah.
I did have one more thing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Come on up and speak into the microphone so we can make sure that other
One
people
other
can
thing
hear.
I did forget,
Yep.
and it was, on Flutter Street, it's not a really big road, regarding, impact on that much more traffic.
That's another component that is looked at once the application is in. They have to provide an impact statement, which goes through a lot of different things, traffic, school, and road widths, those kind of things. So the impact statement, as well as wetland impacts and all of that, is still forthcoming.
All righty.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Excuse me, Bill. You were calling this a cluster subdivision. That's really not part of our zoning. It's really a conservation.
Open space development is the
Open space
official
development. Thank you, Buzz, for the clarification. No, open space. Any other public? No. The applicant could come up and maybe respond to some of those, but I do want to go through some of the items that
Yeah.
code has, or code enforcement
Yeah,
has.
I gave you a copy of that, right? Yep.
Yes.
Basically, we're looking at, on the first page, the traditional 2-acre yield. Our requirements require the 30,000 square foot buildable area minimally to be shown actually on each lot. He has put it on a chart. We personally don't have a problem with that in the office. I just want to point that out to the board.
Okay.
He can prove that it's there. I can do the math, that's fine. But I wasn't sure if, if that's okay. Staff-wise, it is. Lot 11, under the 2-acre plan, to get to the buildable area, there's a major wetland crossing. I think that needs to be addressed to even see if this could be a possible lot, when we count for the yield plan.
There's too
Road-
many lots anyway, isn't it?
I'm sorry.
There's too many lots anyway.
Well, I'm getting to that one, Buzz. The road lengths, the applicant talked about asking for waivers on road lengths. Just to advise the applicant on cul-de-sacs, we're gonna measure from Flutter Street all the way out on both proposed roads, similar to what we did on Oak Ridge.
Do you just happen to know how long that is from Flutter Street out to the end of the cul-de-sac on the yield plan?
I do. The first road was measured from Flutter Street out this way, which is the 2,092 feet. And then this cul-de-sac was measured from that intersection.
So the total length is 3,000 to the head of the cul-de-sac,
That's
scaled
correct.
out.
Yeah. From
So-
Flutter all the way to the back would be roughly 3,000.
Okay, in our regulation, we count all the way to the street, so in our regulations, it's 2,000?
Correct. And I believe that's, we're basing this on Chris Elwer from my office was in a while ago to discuss the board, and it's based on that conversation, we went more with the cul-de-sac design than, we could try to do a loop design through this, but we figured that was the purpose of that previous meeting, was to talk more about the cul-de-sac. So that's why we went with this.
So the big concern that we have over, the staff has over the yield plan proposal, they're showing, they can get 20 lots under our traditional 2-acre, 24 under, the open space, but they're also using the bonus section, and they're using the bonus section incorrectly.
When you say bonus section, why don't you?
Yep, that's, I'm gonna read it. Article 4, capital letter S, number 5, permitted uses. Development density. And it talks about what the density has to be. But then you go down to number 6, workforce density, and that's where the bonuses come in. So if this is not going to be a workforce housing subdivision, then the densities don't work. If you can show you can get us 20 lots on 2 acres, the max you can do is 20 lots under an open space. So that's what I'm talking about, the bonus.
Unless it's workforce housing.
If they claim it's workforce housing, and then that's gonna tie in a whole lot of issues we'll deal with as the plan goes forward with a lot of deed restrictions. And then just, real quick, the basic note about, we need to show, when the plans come in further, that this will be subject to the impact fee ordinance. So, staff's recommendation at this point is for you to discuss this, look at, how many lots you feel under the traditional 2 acres that are really there, and then have them redesign a yield plan so we can calculate out the true numbers. You know, I have a lot of concern over that lot 11. The other lots look doable, but the road lengths, again, I know I haven't spoke to the fire chief yet, but speaking with him in the past, 2,000 feet is gonna be the limit, and he really is adamant to that for public safety and fire protection.
In our requirements in the yield plan, is that yield plan development state that no waivers would be applied to it?
Yeah.
So you would be limited to a 2,000 length cul-de-sac for this, so the yield plan would need to get revised. Because you can't guarantee that the yield plan will provide, that the board will vote and provide a waiver for that, right? So the yield plan is really how many lots you can get under our regulations.
So if well, all right, I guess I misinterpreted what happened at the previous meeting then, so we can do a loop though, and come off that loop with a 2,000-foot cul-de-sac then.
I thought on the previous meeting too, that was a suggestion that the board preferred to see a loop.
And a cul-de-sac off of that.
No. If I remember right, we could look back at the minutes. The options that Chris had brought in before was a cul-de-sac, similar to what you're doing here.
Correct.
Or a loop.
Or a loop. right,
Not a cul-de-sac off the loop, because unless the loop is gonna have an in and out,
It would have that's what I meant, I guess it would have, we have narrow frontage, but I think we have the room to come in and do a loop through here for the yield plan, and then a cul-de-sac off of that.
We would still be counting it from, well, you need, from the intersection of
Street,
flood.
yeah. That's what we've done in the past with other subdivisions on the length.
Why would you count it from the Flutter Street though, if we have 2 ways in and out from that cul-de-sac, it's the same as the connection at Flutter Street?
Yeah.
You can come out, you can go left or right.
Mm-hmm.
We could look at it. The concern I have is we'll have to see the drawings and the engineering on the loop part, because it's where it's very narrow, you know. That's gonna be a concern. I mean, we're only talking a few feet of frontage there.
Right, there's only 200 feet of frontage or so right now
Yeah.
onto Flutter.
Yeah, I'd say we have, looking at what's 50, I'd say we have, 200, 250.
Yeah.
We're talking about 2 curb cuts for would be considered 2 roads.
Within.
In the
100
yield plan only.
Yeah.
We're not what we would prefer to construct.
Yeah, I had a question too, towards the west side of the property, which is the top left. I know this is the yield plan, but there's a floodplain there, which may be that boundary line. And also, the setbacks from very poorly drained soils, which are in that area, are 75 feet. So that may cut into those lots as well, into what's considered buildable areas. And I know those areas are pretty tight right now. They're only about 30,000 feet, like 30,011, 30,037.
I would say there's certainly some very poorly drained out there.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's up to the edge of if you've ever been out there, it's pretty far hike, but there's a little stream out there.
Yeah, I was using the soils maps from, like, on the overlay on Granite View.
Right.
We're not allowed to go out on private property.
We'll let you.
Well, we have to have it as a public hearing.
A lot of people have been out there, that's why. It's been used for hunting, as trail. Where we're proposing our wetland crossing, for instance, there's been a trail there for years. You could ride a 4-wheeler down through there, no problem. Now it's been used as a logging road, so it's even open, more open. But when Chris did the wetland flagging, in the back, the edge of the wetland isn't very poorly drained. It starts out as poorly, and then as you get further into that wetland, it turns to a very poorly drained section. So the setback, I think, from that back edge is gonna be 50 feet. And then in the middle, somewhere closer to the middle of that big wetland in the back would be a very poorly drained.
That's where it's poorly, okay.
but the two won't overlap any more than than we're showing them.
And then we're looking at the yield plan, lot 2, there's a lot kind of envelope or the buildable area, uplands, and then there's like looks like a connector going to like another area. Do you know what that would be? Is that kind of a drainage area, or? So it's between lot 1, what's identified as lot 1 and lot 2? Is that
The two parallel lines,
two parallel lines going to like another?
that's
upland?
the existing woods road that crosses the wetland.
Oh, okay, for that, in
Detailed,
that section.
surveyed that more so of the wetland because we knew we were gonna be crossing it, so.
And then, I believe it's 2-foot contours on here, on the contour maps, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so that, because without knowing, some of these areas looked like it was gonna be some really steep slopes, but I don't think these are over 15, they're definitely not approaching 25, right?
No, they're definitely not over 25. There are some steep sections, but it's 200 scale plans.
Yep.
And you're at half scale, so you're really at 400. 1 inch equals 400 feet. And
Yep.
I just want to clarify, I think, more on so on the road, if we have a loop off of Flutter, we can then go and have a cul-de-sac? Or I guess we need to know if that's typically allowed, I guess, if you're gonna have if you have a loop road and you have 2 ways out from that road, you can have a cul-de-sac of the minimum cul-de-sac length, or maximum cul-de-sac length.
I'd have to defer to our regulations.
I would say,
don't-
yeah, our regulations do allow that because we're coming off a road that has two entrances and exits, in theory.
Yep.
You know, like I said, again, we'd have to see what that looks like on we need minimum of 100-foot right-of-way on a 200, 250 frontage. It's gonna be tight, depending on what they gotta do for drainage and utility easements.
But, and keep in mind, that's just for the yield plan that
Right,
we can.
but we still have to see that it's gonna work,
Right.
so.
But to what
Because there's
level?
nothing that's gonna say that we're gonna accept the conservation subdivision.
Correct.
So the yield plan has to work.
To what level do we have to design the yield plan? Further than what we're providing? Because I was hoping that we would not have to get into drainage design, road design, utility
But
design.
you and I
Yeah.
talked about that.
I don't think that would,
Right, at this point, I think, until we give them a firm number on the yield plan, one of the recommendations I had as staff is, under the 2-acre one, under the yield, eliminate lot 1. That'll give you, then it kind of addresses tonight what some of the abutters brought up, the roadway along the lot line, that it could be crunched in a little more.
well, they need to, at the
But
very.
that's up to them,
At the
yeah.
very minimum, they need to reduce it to 20.
Yes,
So there's one lot, they're showing 21.
right.
I noticed the application also said 24, but it's only 21.
That's based on the open space, and
Oh, right, got it, yeah.
Yeah, they can't use the bonus unless they declare it as a workforce housing subdivision.
Right.
There was concern about a lot of them as well.
And each of these lots would be served by individual wells and septics.
That's correct.
And how about the open space? Would those also be served by individual wells and septic?
Yes. Typically, we locate the wells towards the rear of the lots, so part of the radius goes out into the open space, septic's in the front of the lots. Try to keep them all individual, make it simpler.
So for that, Paul, that's curious, so since we did update the subdivision regs, and we said that low rise has to be contained within the
Yeah,
lot,
within the boundaries
that
of
would
the
be
lot.
something they'd have to do a waiver for.
Right, yeah.
If they do.
If they go with that, yeah.
Open space versus the, I know the state allows that usage, but
Does that regulation relate to open space lots too?
it didn't exclude it, so.
Right. Makes it tough to do the open space lots though.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be something that would have to go to zoning, it would just be a waiver to come along with the application.
I think the board is more willing on a waiver like that, where if it was a conventional subdivision, we'd have the same amount of wells and same radiuses. Any other questions or concerns from the board at this point?
Yeah, just the same, just the yield I think is a bit high, and same thing we've already spoken about.
So I think that there's a little bit of work that needs to be done on the yield plan, just from the comments here.
Yep.
To make sure that the regulations and, you know, go through them with Paul, make sure you're applying the open space calculations the correct way for the cluster. And I guess it would be good to know also, you know, the wetland impact. You know, I think that it's either in the cluster or in conventional subdivision, you will have that road impact. And
Yeah, we can, these are real wetlands, real topo, and it's not USGS maps and soils maps. This is all on the ground delineation, so
Yep.
we can determine that. It's a pretty narrow crossing, where we're looking at it with the trail running through it.
And Paul, was there anything else from Charlene on this one too? Or did we cover it all?
A lot of hers were,
I'm sorry.
if we went, further, let's see. She recommended a site walk, but that's still, I think, down the road. She talks about wetlands. Talks about the first lot. Fire protection requirements, again, that'll be down, once I know how many lots is down the road. And, yeah, contacting the other town departments to get input. She brings up the traffic, issue, which will require a study on this. And then she brings up the workforce housing. And she asked if test pits had been done, and I can guarantee the test pits have been done. What, 3-4 days out there?
Yeah.
They're out there, yeah. So,
And I know there was a comment from the public regarding the wells and the, you know, the Nottingham Planning Board doesn't have any jurisdiction other than where they're located on the property, and the well radius is all governed by the state. And so quality and installation and all of that needs to be to the state's requirements. We don't have any jurisdiction over that.
We can require hydrogeologic studies, which I think, we'd have to look, but I think this may meet the standard that we set on that. But that would be a little bit further down the road too.
Regarding the yield too, I would think that, you know, Paul made a suggestion of lot one to provide for the access, possibly better.
yeah, I mean, that's up to them to figure their new design, yeah.
And but the other lot in question, in my mind, is lot 11. That's possibly mean 19 in my thinking.
In the open
So
space, that's all just,
I would recommend to the board that you, again, continue this to a date and time certain. I would consult with them to see how long
Okay.
they
Yeah,
need.
sounds fine. Any other comments from the board? No? I'd entertain a motion, I think, in one way or another.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue this hearing to, is there a date that works best for you all to kind of get some feedback on that?
yeah, I think
We
the
have,
next meeting would be fine.
The
The
27th?
27th?
You have 2 meetings,
we can.
Or we can push it back to the May 11th.
May 11th,
well, I guess if we, how soon before the meeting do you need to get plans by?
I need them at least a week to review, so it really only gives you a week to.
Right.
But I think the only thing we have to do is if I'm not misunderstanding, I think what we have to do is come up with create a loop in the yield plan, and then change that layout and then come back with these same 2 pages for the yield plan. Is that correct? Is that the,
Yeah, it would be helpful if you had some of the other information that we talked about, maybe the wetlands impacts.
yep, we can do that really
and-
easily.
At least be able to talk about them, too.
Yeah, they're looking at, either looking at a loop with a cul-de-sac, or if that doesn't work out, just shorten the cul-de-sacs to 2,000 feet. So, the two options.
What's tough about this piece, obviously, is it's long and narrow, it's not really narrow, it's, 1,000+ feet wide, but it's,
Limited front.
right, the good upland is in the back, a lot of the upland's in the back, and, one side is a lot of wet, so, it's, I think we could come back in 2 weeks if the board, get plans back to you within a week if you want.
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we continue this case P16-005-SUB to April 27th, 2016, and it'll be just after our.
We just say 7 o'clock, and then we just.
7 PM.
Yeah.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor, say aye. Those opposed, it's unanimous. The public hearing will also be continued, so the public hearing will be open, and see you back here in a couple weeks.
And we'll kick this plan to both, fire and conservation too. This week.
So, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Will we, as a resident, be able to look at your revised plan? When will they be available?
They'll be available 7 days prior to the public.
As
It's-
soon as we get them, Joanna will, on our town website, we'll put something up there, we can do that, right?
Sure.
Yeah, and then you guys are more than welcome to come in.
Yep.
and look at 'em.
And all of the plans are available for public viewing here at the office, in the office hours for planning department. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. Now that we have a captured audience, our next item on the agenda is public comment. So if anyone wants to talk about anything else,
Can I request that you let people know that when a public hearing is continued, that means you won't get re-notified?
when a public hearing is continued, you won't be re-notified. Today is the notification, it's just a continuance, so it'll be continued next week, or in 2 weeks. Seeing no other comments from the public, and I see no Board of Selectmen for an update. Any other board members have updates that they would like to share at this hour?
I became a father like 13 days ago.
Hey!
Congratulations.
Did it.
Where's the cigars?
Sorry.
Come on.
Congratulations.
E-cigarettes, I think now, right? That's why for everybody.
Vapes.
Yeah,
How's it going?
it's great.
He looks tired, he's a new dad.
Congratulations.
People keep using this S word, I don't know what it is. They say sleep. I've heard of it. No, it's great.
For conservation.
So I will reseat Member Sue Mooney, and Robert Davies is unseated
Sorry about
as
that.
an alternate, although
Thank
we
you.
we don't have any other voting things,
You,
so.
though.
This is on.
So no other updates, and we have some minutes from the last meeting. And I'm hoping everybody either had a chance to review those and have all the comments in, and if you don't have the comments in, that we may want to, if anyone's concerned that they haven't reviewed it, we can push that off to the next meeting.
I have a quick question. Are they in our packet?
No, I didn't see them in there.
Because I was unable to print anything out because we were out of toner.
Okay, let's vote on, let's
So we'll postpone it.
postpone the
All
vote
right,
on that.
thank you. I do have toner now.
Paul, one question for you. I saw the OEP thing came back out that they are doing the conference.
Yeah.
But it looked like it was, what they've
June.
listed so far is the very basics.
Real basic.
No, is that pretty much it, or are they?
That's what you're seeing is,
Yeah.
I mean, they may have a further, maybe detailed session, but the sessions are, it's almost a repeat of the law lecture series the last few years.
That's what I
So,
thought.
yeah, it's June 4th, I think, is that Saturday?
Yeah,
So, yeah. So, yeah.
I saw
yes,
the new,
June
like,
4th.
the session for like new planning board members, but that's pretty much the only one that.
Right, yeah.
It's kind of.
We do have a set of plans, the Batchelder subdivision from the other
Okay, so
night.
we have, yeah, we've got to sign some plans. Since there's no back to the page, that's our agenda for tonight. I entertain a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Hey, he does speak!
Waiting for that all night. Just kidding.
I second, but I'm not seated.
Motion and a second. We've all vote, we're adjourned, I'm assuming. Those opposed, it's unanimous.